Hey guys, so it's Ray,
And Will.
and it's another weekly devlog. This is week 9, but it's a little late, so we're actually into week 10, but we're going to fudge it
Yeah,
because we were really busy with some stuff this weekend.
some really cool stuff.
So let's get started with what did we work on this last week? Uh, Snailiens, we started, I think, with the frosted tip, and we
Yes.
hinted with some. I think we tweeted and we put it on our Facebook channel that the model was done where we were playing with. Unreal has this really
Yeah.
awesome tool where you can bone an object, and then you can use those bones without having to animate it. You can just use it with real time physics and kind of imbue it with properties. So we were working with like the hoses on the hammer. The frosted tip is the cryo hammer previously. So we were working with the hoses and it like wiggling around and stuff.
Yeah. Which is
Uh,
surprisingly difficult dealing with masses, dealing with inherited transformations.
it seems
Like
to be a buggy tool.
there's a lot of
There's
they'll break it, but
yeah,
but
it's
it
really
is it
awesome.
is super cool when it finally
Yeah,
behaves. Don't
Bas-
scale anything, by the
yeah.
way.
So
Big
developers don't scale when using fat because
more critically, don't scale on import. Like when you import your skeletal mesh, do not import with any uniform import scale. It will just ruin the entire system for some reason.
very much things will like go crazy and try to go to like world zero
They
or
they
something.
inherit the transformation of the size that they would have been if they hadn't been scaled when it's doing the physics calculations, which is
Yeah.
wrong, but
Yeah, it's
yeah.
whatever. All right, so you guys saw that we were working with that. The frosted tip has all of its model done, has
Mhm.
all of its texture done,
Yep, and its animations.
and all of most of its mechanics done. So
Yes,
we'll
the
probably be putting that in the game relatively soon. I don't want to announce anything like, "Oh, it'll be in the game tomorrow," but like you'll probably see it within the next week.
we want to tune in exactly how it plays and stuff before we
There's
kind of send it
a
out
few
there.
mechanical issues because it's got a secondary fire like a lot of the new weapons that we're putting in, and it's when you pull the trigger you actually can like kind of golf
Yeah.
club things into the air and send them through like sailing through the air, and we want to make sure that there's no situation where you can break your level and not win because you
Yeah.
knocked an enemy out into the world that you can't get to.
Snails need to be protected in the event that they end up somewhere they shouldn't have ended up, and they know to show themselves out when they can't
Exactly.
find the navigation mesh to navigate again. Like
Basically, it's just fringe case
it's
stuff that
yeah,
we want to make sure that we're handling perfectly before we implement it, so you can't break the game. What else? So we did that, and then we immediately moved on to the
hmm
the bosses in the game. So I think we're retooling a little bit, and we talked about that in 8, Devlog 8, where we're probably going to launch it in chunks instead of all at once because it's
it's
becoming a massive endeavor, and we want to do some testing on some things beforehand. So we're going to launch with probably the first 2 bosses. Um, but I think what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to release a test level that you can get to through the moon base that is just one of these kind of world grids and sky sphere with a boss in it, and its mechanics and stuff, and we'll give you some guns. And so you guys can actually like try to play with the boss, and we can test stuff to see if it works or not. So we're working on that. We did the model. I think the first boss is we're tentatively calling it the King Crab.
yeah.
We've got concept,
hmm
and we'll start a modeling. We think it looks really
it's
awesome.
most of the way there, I think.
Really, all that's left on the model is all the hard body, like mechanical bits
hmm
that are, the inorganic stuff. And then I'll go in and I'll texture it while Will's putting in mechanics and stuff and
And
animating it,
animating.
and
A
it'll
lot
go
of
in.
it's gonna be so many animations.
Yeah, so
Like,
it's very much if you think about like how difficult it's going to be, it's akin to a World of Warcraft raid boss. Like you're going to see he's got multiple phases, he's got lots of different mechanics, and it's just making sure that we have all the animations for that, and all the animations are really good. We're trying to improve kind of the fluidity and kind of the general quality of our animations. That's kind of the last big step for us. So that's working on it. Um, and then I guess so. You worked on the crab
Yeah,
for
for a couple days.
like
For
4 days
a few
straight,
days. Yeah.
and we were kind of at each other's throats. And you get burned out just
Make
doing the
it
same
more
thing over
organic.
and over and over. Especially with like how much higher the quality that we want Japan to be.
Yeah.
It just requires massively more work. And so we got a little burnt out. And I think Thursday night, Friday morning, I saw that Unreal was doing its game jam.
Spring game jam.
So they usually do this monthly, but I guess this year they're going to do it quarterly.
Yeah.
And they had their game jam over the weekend. And we said to ourselves, we've been working every day, all day, for almost a whole year now on just this game. It might be nice to change it up a little bit. So we thought to ourselves, like, what's a cool game that we could make that once we finish making it,
we get to use.
It's helped build Snailiens somehow. And we thought to ourselves, well, we've been kicking around this idea since the Vive launched about chain blades. I think the very first time in April of last year, I showed up.
April or May when
I showed up. Will had already had the Vive, but he's like, "You gotta check this out."
it was right after the Vive had arrived.
Yeah.
So.
He was like, "You gotta check this out. It's really cool." I'm like, "I don't think VR is a thing," but I put it on. Immediately was impressed, and the very first thought I had was, "We should make a game like God of War. We should make a Chainblade game." And I think we spent probably 3 or 4 days trying to get chain blades working.
Yeah.
And it was just beyond our our intelligence level at the time. So we scrapped the idea. But we thought to ourselves, chain blades would be badass in Snailiens. And it would be even cooler if we could make a game jam game around a God of War type chain blade game. And then once we've, done the game jam, we can just put it in Snailiens pretty easily. So this last weekend, we actually made what we had concepted for Snailiens, the chain reaction, which is a weapon, into a new game called / Revolution. So that's actually where we are. This is the test level for / Revolution. So show them the chain blades, Will.
All right. And they have stopped kicking it again.
Yeah. It's an
there they go.
thing. There they go. So there's still a rough prototype, but we took 2-ish days to make some chain blades. I think we've got some spiders in here, Will, if you wanna.
I think we do have some spiders in here.
We took the opportunity to make a game that's a little bit more mature, just because we've been working with kind of whimsical or family-friendly games for a while. So all we did was we went and found the Infinity Blade assets that Epic just, hands out.
Because they're awesome like that.
Because they're really awesome. And we were like, because it wasn't about making a game. It was about making a mechanic and proof of concept for that mechanic. And I think we've just about nailed it.
Yeah.
There's some fine tuning, but these are super awesome to play with. For those of you working on games, the big thing is you have to, one would think that you have to drive these with some level of acceleration, but you cannot do that because GameTick doesn't really work with VR motion controllers because you kind of operate outside of time.
We found a weird issue with that, at least, but
yeah, and so
that's not to say you guys won't figure it out, but there's issues when you start deriving things off from things you've derived over from tick to tick,
Yeah.
And kind of the floating point unreliability of some of the stuff in Unreal kind of gets away
the big
from
thing
the other
is
one.
game engines don't use time like human beings use time.
No,
It's not
no,
a
well,
constant.
it's-
It's not a perceived constant rate, so you can't
Computers don't,
use it
so.
as a constant.
And in reality, Unreal does a lot of good work trying to protect, a
Yeah.
second to be a second, but
We were
especially
in Fringe World.
yeah.
But what we ended up doing was we implemented a system that doesn't use physics. And so what you might be asking is, how do you do a physics-based weapon without physics simulation? And the answer is a lot of very complicated fakery.
To make it feel good without using any physics, because the physics, like our first swing at this a long time ago when we were putting these together, I basically just made simulating.
Yeah, we were actually using FAT, I think.
We were trying
to
to
physics simulate a blade and some chains. But
you can't use them.
Really think
as
about
a human being.
Yeah.
A swing doesn't swing like this. It just like limply falls to the ground, like flops around, like no, go after them.
Which is what anyone who's probably made a chain blade for VR has experienced, where chain blades seem like they're based in physics, but in reality, if you try to make them physics-based, they don't behave like, say, God of War. God of War behaves more like a yo-yo, actually, where everything is always taut, everything comes back to your hand very, very
It has to
naturally.
do with gyroscopic motion and stuff.
And so, what we found was it's far better to create a system that simulates it than to try to use physics, then scrub out all of the stuff that makes it not work with physics. So, without further ado, let's do something.
Oops. Open. There it is. Tab. Yeah.
This is what the Game Jam got to see. So this is our kind of fun level.
And it's all the Infinity Blade stuff.
It's all
Don't
Infinity
worry,
Blade art. We decided we didn't want to have to make art for something that was only going to take 2 days, and we were really only interested in the mechanic of the chain blade, not necessarily, look and feel of the world. So we let people who are far better at making art do the art for us. And it actually ended up looking pretty cool.
and
it's certainly a departure from Snailiens, which is more like Overwatch.
And we've exited.
In its simple color-based textures. But there you have it. We so down below the video.
Oh, I died.
Nice. Down below the video, we're gonna post a link, and you can just go download this. It's a standalone little game. It's about 300 megs, and I think we're hosting it on Itch.
Yes,
So,
Itch and Drive, but you probably want to get it from Itch.
Yeah, we're not gonna hand out the Drive
Okay.
URL because it's just we
For
don't want
public,
we don't want that
private
level of
reasons.
foot traffic just going through a Google Drive. So we're gonna let Itch handle all that for us. But yeah, so you can go play this right now if you want to. We think it's pretty awesome. I did some testing yesterday, and Will's playing for me because I hurt myself so bad testing it yesterday that I can't really move my arms. So I would highly encourage people to stretch before and after playing this game. And then the other warning is with all of the world, it's almost like Worms World Party ninja rope mechanics, all the swinging mechanics, I guess I should say, and all the trackpad. It's gonna make new people vomit. So if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother us. So I mean, if it doesn't bother us, there's probably a lot of other people that it doesn't bother, because we tend to be more sensitive. But for new people who really need teleport, probably stay away from this, or be careful. This is not a game you show your friend as the first time playing in VR. But we think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, play it. If you like what you see, let us know. like we said, we're going to be including this weapon at some point down the line in Snailiens. It's going to be one of those weapons we throw in before the levels in Japan, just so you guys can play with some stuff. But let us know. We've been working on Snailiens for a whole year. It's easy to get kind of blinded by the project that you're in. And if people want like more levels of this, definitely let us know, because we can probably throw some stuff together with like some different bosses and stuff pretty easily. We actually, it's not in the game because we ran out of time, but we started working for the first time with persona and behavior trees and all of the built-in tools for
we do a lot of work
very
with persona,
complex
but yeah, with
artificial intelligence.
With the proper AI, with environmental queries and stuff.
So enemies could potentially do a advanced behavior simulation. Yeah, don't fall in the magma; it'll hurt you, man.
I missed my landing.
But basically,
float.
It was a fun little project to get to not work on the game Snailiens for two days, and
but to still be actually working on the game
and free ourselves up. To put in perspective, Snailiens is like, I think Snailiens is 200 gigs as a game project, and this is like 6.
Yeah.
So it's a much smaller game. It's much more streamlined. It was nice to unburden ourselves by all the systems in Snailiens and just kind of free create.
How many things have to work together? How many layers of
all
the meta progression and unlocking? It has to save. It has to this.
So it was nice as a change of pace. We may do in the future. We love doing game jams, so we may do more game jams. We're not sure, but like I would take this as a one-off, kind of just a weird happenstance where we were thinking about this weapon before the game jam. The game jam kind of gave us an opportunity to
Get out.
Attaching to the spiders to explore it, and so we just kind of did. And so this week, what are we going to work on, Will? We're going to go back in and we're going to
work on the crab still.
Work on the king crab, the boss fights. I think I think we're probably a day, 2 days away from the king crab being fully modeled and textured. Then it's animations, and most of the animations we know what we need to do. Some is going to be testing, and it's like, oh well, we need something for that. Think raid bosses where like they have very clear animations that they play when they're about to do a mechanic, so that you are cued into what it's doing, and you can understand that you need to now counter it.
Audio cues, visual cues.
A lot of that stuff.
There's a lot that goes into it.
And then I'll throw together a level, and we'll start testing the boss, and we may release something for that boss to everyone within the next week, I want to say, but if you don't get it, it's because we're still working on something, and it got more complicated than we anticipated, which happens a lot. But right now we're just having a lot of fun with this. But it's back to the grind, I think, Will.
Yeah, well.
You got anything else? Did we do anything else this week that...
other than this thing, not in particular. We're only 5 spiders away from victory here, though.
Yeah. We're approaching 20 minutes.
Yeah. But no, it was fun to get to play with this, and pretty soon these weapons are going to be in Snailiens too, and you get to fight snails with them.
Shout out if you've never seen Epic's Game Jams. You should definitely go, like, you go to, Unreal.com or whatever, and then you go to the forums, and it's under events.
Yeah, and it just respawns.
And it's amazing. I think there was probably like over 80 teams this time. And there was some pretty cool stuff, especially
and not
for
everybody
VR.
Finished, but there was quite a few VR projects, I think.
There's one guy who I think posted to our Vive something. It was basically a Katamari Damacy game for VR that we played.
Like cleaning up winter,
which is
collecting ice in a big ball.
Very impressive.
Yeah, we played that one. It was pretty fun.
There's definitely a seed of something interesting in there. Some of the mechanics are a little clunky for our liking, and fun fact, we played it. If you're listening, dude from Reddit, you're not GPU bound, you're CPU bound, because we went into profiling for you because we were like, hey, this is a little framey on.
I'm sure he knows that. It's just a game jam game.
No, it's just a game jam game. But what you're doing is, I think you're appending objects to your ball, and you're doing a lot of, I think, on tick calculations on positions, and I think that's what's bottlenecking you. But it's certainly a cool game. We played it for 15-20 minutes last night. It was pretty fun. And there's a bunch of other games. There's one that was a dude who you just like run around kind of a small world, where like the horizon is constantly drawing in, kind of. And it's a lot like Splatoon, but with you shoot flowers and you're trying to bring spring back to winter, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it was Spring into Action was the name of the thing.
It was a theme.
Which is what we're, springing
it's all
into action.
It's not spring, but it's like, it's a lasting.
It's swing into action. I think that's close enough.
Yeah. It was more, this is what we wanted to make, so we made it work. But, it's whatever. So, we'll be releasing probably some hotfix build for some things that got mentioned on the forums, and maybe introduce the frosted tip, maybe introduce some other stuff later on this week. But for the most part, just keep, we're just going to keep working. There's not like a huge spectacular change this week. It's more just incremental upgrades and, working with stuff that still needs to get done. All right. I think we're out.
Yeah.
See ya, guys.
See you guys next week.